Papa said it'd be all right. Isn't that wonderful, Kizzy? Isn't that a fine surprise? Well, what it means is that Uncle William will make a present of you. You'll be my slave, Kizzy. We'll be together forever. And you won't ever have to be afraid of anything again, because I'll protect you, Kizzy, always. Wouldn't you like that?
I likes you, Missy Ann. You my best friend, always was, but...
But what?
There seems just so much happening all of a sudden.
Hey, it's wonderful, all of it. You'll come here to live, Kizzy, here with me.
Never lived no place but Massa's.
It'll be much nicer here. You'll have a room of your own, right next to mine.
Never been away from my mama and my papa.
Well, Papa Toby will be back and forth with Uncle William, and we'll be over to see Mamabelle near as much as we'll be here. Oh, it'll be better than ever for you and me, Kizzy. And it'll be legal. You hear me, Kizzy? Legal.
Don't know nothing about legal.
Oh, well, legal is, it's just the law. Black people are slaves and white people own them. That's just the way it is.
I know. Just don't understand it, I guess.
Well, think of it this way, Kizzy. It's the natural way of things. I suppose it's because white folks are just naturally smarter than niggers. Like men are smarter than women. Now everyone knows that, for heaven's sake.
You mean that's the way God made it?
Exactly. So if it wasn't right, why, he'd change it, wouldn't he?
Expect so. Abolitionist wants to change it, Missy Ann.
If we weren't friends, Kizzy, I could have you punished for even mentioning the abolitionists.
I know that.
But we are friends, so I'll explain it to you. They are evil people, like Quakers. They're against God.
They is?
Mm-hmm.
Kizzy!
Papa wants to get back to Massa's. Don't want to run into any patrollers after it gets dark.
Kizzy, don't you want to be my slave? Aren't you my friend?
Of course I'm your friend, Missy Ann. I just has to ask my mama and my papa.
Oh, no, I'll ask them. I want to be the one. I'll be back at Uncle William's in a week. I'll ask them then. Till then, it's to be our secret. Just yours and mine. Oh, how happy Mamabelle will be. She'll probably start to cry just from joy when I tell her. Oh, Kizzy, isn't it wonderful? This time we have the most wonderful secret of all.
Revelations 13:10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with a sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem Rachachodash. Double honors and salutations on to Yahweh, Wah Yahushai, Wah, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom unto you, beautiful men. Shalom to the 144,000 men that are scattered throughout the four corners of the globe that are pushing this truth at this very hour. I am the brother Yazrael from the GMS Dallas camp, coming back at you with another quick hit lesson. Abaratazah, meaning Lord willing in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, that it is edifying unto those who are meant to receive it. All right, now, this clip came across my channel here, and I remember this movie. For those of you out here that are of my age, this was, I believe it was the movie Roots. And this was a scene, and this was a very, very heavy scene, hence the reason why I chose to do a lesson on this. The name of this lesson is called He That Leadeth into Captivity Shall Go. Because within this small segment of 3 minutes of this, less than 3 minutes of this scene, tells a lot. All right, it tells a lot about who we are as a people. Tells a lot about who the Edomites are today. Okay, it talks a lot, and it tells a lot about prophecy. Okay. And what I'll do, I'm going to bring the video back here, and we'll just kind of go in and kind of break some things down here. But nonetheless, you know, we're in that time right now, that latter in time where all things are being made manifest. And there was a reason why the Lord is having all these things coming out. All right. You've had, and I'm sure a lot of you brothers and sisters have heard a million times within your life that we should just forget slavery and get over it. Right. That it's a thing of a past. You know what I mean? But this is one of the reasons why biblically incarnation is so dreadful to chiefly the heathens, because when you understand that reincarnation is biblical and you are your forefathers returning, okay, that's a terrible thought, you know, because it shows that you're going to have recompense put upon you. There will be recompense for what you've done. All right. And just as the precept I brought out here in Revelations 13:10, those of us that were led into captivity, all right, we are going to have those who led us in captivity ourselves. Okay. And we will rule over them. This is the patience. When you go into that word patience, it means to suffer of the saints. We know the saints are the children of Israel, Psalms 50:5. Those who made a covenant with him by sacrifice. Okay. So we're in that latter in time now where you see all these talking points about the Bible. You can go on ChatGPT, which a lot of brothers go into, including myself. All right, just the vibration that's being put out here right now is all about the Israelites. It's all about this truth. It's all about, all these different things are now coming out that were hidden in textbooks for years. Now that we have the unicorn, which is the internet, all this information is being ready available, and it's being brought back up for a reason, because Yahweh Bahashim Yahushua is bringing all this back up in the forefront. All right, and this is a nightmare onto the people that spearheaded this whole thing. Okay, now she mentioned in the very beginning, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and get it. And like I said, we'll just kind of break this down. It won't be too long.
Isn't that wonderful, Kizzy? Isn't that a fine surprise? Well, what it means is that Uncle William will make a present of you.
Right, a present. See, because you have to understand that we were gifts. All right, when you go into Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, it talks about all of the captivities that we would have to go into. Right, and the last one being when we were put on slave ships and we were scattered in the diaspora. Okay, throughout all the lands. All right, brought chiefly here to Babylon the Great, America, where we were sold for our enemies as bondmen and bondwomen, meaning slave men and slave women, and no man shall buy you, meaning redeem you. Okay, and that was done by the hands of the Edomites. Okay, so she says that here, that she would be given as a present and as a gift. Okay, but that lines up perfectly when you look at the history, because biblical history and secular history parallel themselves. This is Revelations 11:10, and they said, and they that dwelt upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another. Because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt upon the earth. Prophets are symbolic to the northern and southern of Israel. Okay, so we were the original gifts during Christmas and so forth, because you have to understand that they had breeding houses. All right, Joel, I believe it is the 3rd chapter, speaks on that. Selling a boy as a harlot and a girl for wine. Okay, because they had breeding houses on these plantations, which a lot of people don't talk about or don't know of. Okay, where we were basically being bred. Okay, you would take the strongest male, or the strongest female, and you'd breed them together as cattle. Okay, and you would deprive them of understanding. You would pretty much beat and belittle, and a lot of times kill the man in the sight of the woman and the child. That way, that child, especially being that young boy, would have that fear instilled in him not to uprise or buck up against the powers that be. In this case, Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. Okay, and it was programming. Is what it was. All right, and so we were these people's inheritance. As you see this Edomite here on the right, okay, and this Israelite here on the left, she said it best, basically that you would be a present or a gift. And we just read it here in Revelations. All right, so the original gifts for Christmas and so forth and so on were children. Okay, they were us, because you have to understand, when we were sold on to our enemy, they would keep us in the house. They'd have a certain number in the house. We like to call them house niggas. But you had a certain number that were in the field too. And what they do, as I said, they would breed us. Okay, and so you would have a child, whether it be from the master raping the woman, one of our Israelite women, which usually was the case. But nonetheless, that child would be raised up in the same manner. Okay, and then when that child gets of age, that child comes Christmas or holidays or whatever pagan day they may be worshiping. All right, your slave owners will basically sell you or give your child off to a neighboring friend as a gift and a possession. Okay? So these are the things that were happening back then. All right, and they have, like I said, when you have these movies and all these things around, see, these are the things that they don't like to talk about because they want to forget about them. But right now, the Lord is lifting up the skirt of Esau Edom and showing the world their shame and the things that they've done. All right, and there's no way around it. Let's get a little bit more of this.
You'll be my slave, Kizzy. We'll be together forever. And you won't ever have to be afraid of anything again, because I'll protect you, Kizzy, always.
Right, this is Zephaniah 11:5. Whose possessors slay them, right? Because you have to understand, if there's any uprising, right, any disobedience, they passed laws and legislation where, you could pretty much beat, if you could died in the hands of if your slave died in the hands of its slave master, it was justified. Right? So it says, who's possessed to slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. You see, because you have to understand, America, all right, when it was founded, you got 200, 350, 400 years of free labor. This is the reason why America is so great today. When you look at the New York Stock Exchange, you look at all of these prestigious colleges and institutions, these things were created off of the backs and the blood of our people. When you have 350 plus years of free labor building up an empire, you're going to be the richest thing on the planet. Okay, so that's what happened to us. Okay, that's what these damn devils did. But rest assured, as the first precept that I brought up, there's a recompense, because one thing for sure, you Edomites should have never put your hands on the children of Israel. You should have never put your damn hands on us. Okay, that was the worst thing that you could have done. But the best thing, obviously, because ultimately we needed it. We went off. Okay, we were being wicked. And the Lord had enough, where he basically gave his inheritance unto you damn devils. All right. And even to this day, with that remnant coming back, there's still that certain number that's still wicked as hell. So as the beloved Elder Yashwamba always says, yes, slavery was necessary. It was. When you understand who we are as a people, what we're supposed to be like, how things are supposed to be, and what we're supposed to be doing, yes, you would agree. All right. If you have the Spirit upon you, you would agree. Yeah, it was. Okay. But nonetheless, as I said, these people, this nation, and including the nations of the earth. When you go into Revelations, the 18th chapter, talks about how all the nations of the earth, roughly paraphrasing, became rich, all right, off of her delicacies, off of America. All the nations pretty much on the planet became rich off of, vicariously through the backs of Israelite men and women. Us building up this great nation to what it is allowed us to be the consumer nation and the superpower on the planet, which all the nations come and they sell their goods and services to. Why? Because it's a rich state. It's the golden cup Jeremiah talks about. Babylon is a golden cup in the Lord's hand. Okay? Let's get some more of this.
Wouldn't you like that?
And Salakia, and I did mention in this verse, it says, and who's Professor Salakia, and their own shepherds pity them not. And that's talking even more so about, coming into today, because the Lord set up certain men, all right, that are quote unquote so-called seers, overlookers of the flock, but they don't pity him. All right, these men have been put in prestigious positions here in Babylon. All right, you got your Clefro Dollars, okay, your TD Snakes, okay, your Jesse Jacksons, all right, your Al Sharptongues, all these men, but they don't pity the position that we're in. Why? Because they're getting paid off by the same devil. You see? Let's get some more.
I likes you, Missy Ann. You my best friend, always was,
But what?
there seems just so much happening all of a sudden.
Hey, it's wonderful, all of it. You'll come here to live, Kizzy, here with me.
Never lived no place but Masses.
It'll be much nicer here. You'll have a room of your own.
Right. So again, now, this being a daughter of an Edomite, this was a gift unto her. She, there's a young girl. She's a young girl, and she sees this young Israelite woman. She looks at her as a doll, someone that she can take home and play with. She'll put in her little room, and she'll pretty much be at her beck and call. Okay? And this is riddled all throughout American history, but these things aren't talked about. Okay, but again, this goes back to, because make no mistake, these people have always known who we were. All right? It's always been very evident who we were. The Bible echoes who we are, and it's always echoed who we are. But as the scripture says that, as the Lord said, that if he will cause us to discontinue from our inheritance, okay, but then nonetheless, the nations have always known who we were. Okay, that's why they keep changing the names, so forth and so on. Before 1988, there was no such thing as African American. That was given by that same shepherd that pitied us not, Jesse Jackson. That term was given to us by him. Before then, you were African American or Negro or colored and so forth and so on. They keep changing it. You see? But as I said, they've always known who we were. This is Lamentations 2:15. And all that passed by them clapped their hands at thee and hiss and wagged their head at the daughters of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? Right, because when you read Deuteronomy 7 and 6, it talks about how we are a special people unto the Lord, above all the nations that are on the face of the earth. Okay, but that was all joined to the fact that if we were to keep the covenants, even though still we are, because the Lord calls us to go off, because this is his movie. Okay, because we had something that we had to learn. The earth had something that the nations had something that they had to learn as well. And the name of the Lord must be glorified. And this is the way he chose to do it. Okay, it goes on to say, all thine enemies, who? All of our enemies, enemies of Jerusalem. Jerusalem meaning Israel, because we were people before we were place. All right. It says, all thy enemies have opened their mouth against thee. They hiss and gnash their teeth. They say, we have swallowed her up. Certainly this is the day we look for. We have found it. We have seen it. You see? That's why when you read books like Judith, the 5th chapter, you know, other particular chapters in the verse where they talk about, or in the Bible where they talk about, you know, about the Lord being our power. And each and every time we wander out of the way of Yahweh Shem Yahushua and start worshiping other nations, or each and every time we sojourn or get around other nations, Jake is just, he's too much. All right. That's why we're known as sheep, because sheep are very, very simple creatures. All right. So each and every time that we go away from our power, these nations have always known that. And that's when they can come in and overtake us. Our job, our duty, our reason for creation alone, all alone, is to serve Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Scripture talks about how we are the Lord's portion. Okay? But each and every time, you know, the nations will set up certain things, or we should join with them, and we start to wander away from our power and start to do the things that they do, take on their philosophies, their religions, their gods. That's pretty much our kryptonite. And that's when they can come in and they can destroy us. Okay? So this is what, as the scripture says, this is what we have swallowed her up. Certainly this is the day that we look for. The day that we will completely be going off and they would be able to overtake us. Okay, it goes on to say, and the Lord has done that which he has devised. Again, going back to what I said, this is the Lord's plan. He has fulfilled his word that he had commanded in the days of old. Right, this goes all the way back since the beginning. And he hath thrown down and hath not pitied. He's thrown down who? Us. Right, from our greatness. Okay, and he has not pitied us. Why? Because ultimately, we're the ones who went off. We're the ones who pissed him off. And he has caused thine enemies to rejoice over thee, and has set up the horn of thine adversaries. Horn meaning the power. So you see, look on this little Edomite's face. She's happy. She's in her mirth. This is joyous, the fact of being able to rule over these people, over this woman. You think this Edomite looks at this woman as a human being? No, an object to use and discard. And that is the same spirit today, which goes back to the same spirit in Cain in the garden, the first murderer, all right, who murdered his brother, Abel, right? And that's those same two spirits went into Esau and Jacob. And did not Esau say that after the days of mourning my father are over, I will kill my brother Jacob? And those same two spirits that came back in Rebekah fighting in the womb would be symbolic to the fight that we would have eternally here on the planet. You have to understand these people were created to be the wicked. And there are receipts upon receipts out here that prove that, whether you want to believe it or not. Matter of fact, here is Isaiah 47 and 6. I was wroth with my people. Right, as I said, because we went off. I have polluted mine inheritance. See, because we were the Lord's inheritance. That's why he said he's given his inheritance to the wicked, and given them into thine hands, and thou didst show them no mercy. Right. So when you go throughout slavery and you go throughout the times we were in captivity, there was no mercy showed upon us. It goes on to say, and upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. When you look at your grandfathers, you think they gave a damn or pitied them? These people were of age and old. And they were beating their backs in and killing them left and right. They didn't pity anything. But you Jakes and you niggas, every time this word is brought out, the only specific people you guys want to worry about or ask about is the so-called white man, the Edomites. You don't ever have any concern about what about the Chinese? What about the East Indians? What about the Arabs? No, it's always the damn devil, which shows you niggas got Stockholm syndrome. And thus you need to be destroyed with them because you need to be reset. You are gone. Scripture says a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. So one day with the Lord is 1,000 years here on the planet. So all this stuff that you want to complain that we need to forget about in the eyes and in the heavens, in the eyes of the Lord in the heavens, that happened 45 minutes ago. So someone just took everything that you had, beat your back, destroyed your family, raped your wife, your daughter 45 minutes ago. You going to forget about it? Yeah, the Lord is terrible. And this is what's coming. You see? Let's get some more.
Right next to mine.
Never been away from my mom and my papa.
Well, Papa Toby will be back and forth with Uncle William, and we'll be over to see Mamabelle near as much as we'll be here. Oh, it'll be better than ever for you and me, Kizzy. And it'll be legal. You hear me, Kizzy? Legal.
Don't know nothing about legal.
Oh, well, legal is, it's just the law. Black people are slaves and white people own them. That's just the way it is.
I know.
And that's just the way the Lord made it. You see that? That's the way the Lord put it, because we went off ultimately, man. We're coming in that time where that remnant is crying back onto the Lord, something that they don't want, something that brings fear onto them. Ezekiel 37 talks about that. Those dry bones standing up. Revelations 11 talks about that. There's 3 days and a half. Okay, because we were here for 1619, all right, when slavery began, all the way up to about 1969, 1970, when this truth was brought back onto us. 3.5 days equals 350 years if you could receive it in the spirit. The Bible is symbolic. So now that we're standing back on our feet and coming back onto the Lord, this is what's putting these people in fear. But as long as we're like this woman here on this screen and we're docile and we don't know, they will forever rule. So they think.
No, just don't understand it, I guess.
Well, think of it this way, Kizzy. It's the natural way of things. I suppose it's because white folks are just naturally smarter than niggers. Like men are smarter than women. Now everyone knows that, for heaven's sake.
You mean that's the way God made it?
Exactly.
Right. As we just talked about, was the Lord's plan ultimately. But we're coming into that time. Amos 9, matter of fact, let me grab that really quick. Amos 9 and 11. It's Amos 9:11. In that day, in what day? The day that we're in now, I will raise up the tabernacles of David that has fallen. Now, when you go through history, all right, and you go back when we were ruling under King David, we had all the Edomites in subjection. Okay? And close up the breaches thereof, and I'll raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. In the days of old, as I said, back when we had the Edomites in subjection and rulership. Okay? Matter of fact, let me grab something here see if I can grab this verse here. Let me Papa Shot, give me 1 second. Because that tabernacle of David is being risen right now. I think it's 2 Samuel at 8, I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just get straight to it. Garrisons. I'll start at 13. And David got him a name when he returned from smiting the Syrians in the valley of Salt, being 18,000 men. Here's the point. And he put garrisons in Edom, throughout all of Edom. Put he garrisons, and all of Edom became David's servants. And the Lord preserved David wherever he went. You see, so this is when we had these Edomites under subjection. That's why, going back to the precept that I brought out, raising up the tabernacles of David as in the days of old, when we had them in subjection. This is what's happening right now. And it's starting with the remnant men of the Lord that are coming back, sighing and crying unto the Lord. You see? And it goes on to say, that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the heathen which are called by my name, thus saith the Lord. See that? So we go into this all the time, the heathen being called by thy name, because you have to understand, each and every last one of you, Jakes, you Aquat, the few that watch, and you Akim that pay attention, every last one of your names are names of a slave master, whether you like it or not. My name is, my last name, All of our last names are property. Just like when you marry a woman, that woman takes on her husband's last name. Why? Because that woman becomes his property, his possession. A man that has gotten a wife has gotten a possession, roughly paraphrasing the scripture. And when you give your last name onto something, that becomes yours. That's why when you own a car, it has your name on it. You own a house, it has your name on it, so forth and so on. Right? So in hearing it says here that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the heathen which are called by thy name, because we're going to own their land, everything that they own. And the heathen called by their name, meaning what? They're going to be owners. They're going to be our possessions. Okay? As I mentioned, if you're given the last name of your slave master, that is your owner. You see? So we are going to own these people is what it's saying roughly. These people are going to be our possession as we were their possession. And yes, there will be a slave trade in the kingdom. The scriptures speak about it. Matter of fact, let me just grab this real quick. I think it's in Joel. I want to say the second chapter, I think it is. No, it's in Joel. Or maybe it might be in 3. 3 and... So ain't gonna be no forgetting. And we don't want no apologies, no nothing. As I said, you should have never put your hands on us. And the recompense you're gonna get is gonna make our whole plight throughout history look like a day at Valley Fair, a day at Disney World, compared to what you guys are gonna have to pay because you touched the apple of the Lord's eye. Here goes. This is I'll start at 6, points and 8. This Joel 3 and 6. The children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that ye may be removed far from their borders. Right, sold unto the Edomites. Right? Behold, I'll raise them out of the places where I have sold them, and I will turn your recompense upon your own head. And that's what's happening. The tabernacle of David being rebuilt. The Lord is raising us up. See how that lines up? It goes on to say, here's the point. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord has spoken it. Talking about the Hamites. Okay, going back to the very first precept I brought out. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So you people are going to be slaves. They're going to be ships going back and forth for hundreds of years selling y'all. Yes, like how y'all did us. And we're going to rejoice because that's righteous judgment right there. You do something, you take my daughter's life, I'm going to take yours. That's righteous. This man is a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. Thus said the roughly paraphrasing the scripture. He hasn't faced any judgment. It's the reason why these people are so proud. And they think the Lord is with them. Because they have not received judgment yet. But the Lord built them up just as he did Pharaoh. Just so when he comes, he's built his own adversary. All this technology and all this stuff that this man has. Why? Just for the Lord to come back here and show out and let all the nations of the world know this man ain't shit. I'm the true power. That's what's happening right now. And it's starting with the elect men that are preaching this truth right now. You see? Let's give it a little bit more of this.
So if it wasn't right, why, he'd change it, wouldn't he?
Spec so. Abolitionist wants to change it, Missy Ann.
If we weren't friends, Kizzy, I could have you punished for even mentioning the abolitionists.
Right, abolitionists. What you know, those are those you would call the Harriet Tubmans and so forth. Those that are pretty much against, all right, this system of slavery. Okay? You see how her countenance changed when she mentioned that. Okay? Because ultimately there's a fear that comes along with that. But she's correct in a lot of sense, because this is what the Lord prophesied to happen. It had to take place. This is the reason why the abolition is going back to what we brought out. And no man shall redeem you. No man shall buy you. No one's going to be able to get us out of this captivity in this predicament. No aboriginists. Okay? No Jesse Jacksons. No men in public office. No political figure. No religious man of stature or nobility here in Babylon or any place else is going to be able to deliver us out of this place. Right?
I know that.
But we are friends, so I'll explain it to you. They are evil people, like Quakers. They're against God.
And that's spiritual because she's right. They're going against what the Lord prophesied to happen. That's why ultimately we are of no avail. We didn't get delivered. Harriet Tubman and all these people that were supposed to be for us, these shepherds, they were Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, all of them. They couldn't do it. Why? Because they were fighting against what the Lord had prophesied to happen. That's why.
Edith. Papa wants to get back to Masses. Don't want to run into any patrollers after it gets dark.
Kizzy, don't you want to be my slave?
The pride of this damn Edomite. I get Isaiah 14:21. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers. For what your forefathers did. Why? Going back to reincarnation. You are your fathers returning. Okay? You are your forefathers. Scripture talks about the spirit turns back, returns onto that same bloodline within every third or fourth generation. You come back. So I'm going to read that again. Isaiah 14:21. Prepare slaughter for the iniquities, for the sin upon sin upon sin of your forefathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the world of the face, fill the face of the world with cities. For I'll raise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from him the Babylon and the name and the remnant of the son and the nephew. Why the son and the nephew? Why just men? Because that's where prosperity goes through the man. It doesn't go through the woman. Okay? Doesn't go through the woman. It goes through the man. So ultimately, what is that going into? That's Obadiah 1:18. There will be no more remaining of the house of Israel, for the Lord has spoken it. You see? Ezekiel 25:14, this is the last precept. And I will lay, and this is why the Lord is raising up his men now. All right, because he's going to endow his men with spiritual power. He promised us that we will be able to put hands on you. That's why scripture says, for our weapons of war are not carnal, but spiritual. Right? Roughly paraphrased, because the Lord is going to endow us with that spiritual power. And you're going to see what the men of the Lord are going to be able to do. The glory of the Lord will be shining, will be upon the men, starting with the elect. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. And they shall do in Edom according to mine anger, right? Meaning the Lord is going to put his anger upon us. See, he's got a lot of joy, because Jake is a very forgiving people. Okay, you know, he might come up nice, you know, yeah, and I just, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden you start having compassion and all that shit because you don't understand what was done. See, the Lord, he saw it from the very beginning. That's why the scripture says there's no remembrance of former things, because if he allowed us to remember all the things that these people done to us throughout captivity, we wouldn't be able to hold that. We would give up the ghost. We would not be here in Babylon the Great today. We couldn't hold that. We would be fucking utterly gone. So he had to keep erasing it. But in that day, as we just read here, and I will do to Edom according to mine anger, meaning he's going to give us his anger. Now, what that means specifically, not 100% sure. Could very well be he could give us his mind, meaning his vision, the vision of everything that these people done unto us, and us being in those new bodies, we're going to be able to hold that. And we're going to exercise fury and spiritual power like this world has never seen. And they shall do unto Edom according to my anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, saith the Lord. So vengeance is coming for you, Edomites, man, whether you like it or not. It's too late. Scripture talks about how his children shall seek to please the poor. It's too late. Okay, and there's still a heavy number. The majority, you can't change your spots. You are who you are, no matter how much you come a crouching, as the scripture talk about, and trying to be all nice and cool. You can't change who you are. You were created to be the wicked, and you were created to be destroyed, sons of perdition. All right. So with that, I want to say, Barakatah Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakodash, double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and Shalom.